We'll see how we can create roles using an OIDC provider, which is OpenID connector as a provider for GitHub Actions, for GitHub workflows. So the intention is to have, if we have any GitHub workflows, which is for which we can make use and deploy to AWS, or in this case, we want to have a GitHub workflow which will connect to AWS and run a quick integration test. In this specific case, we make use of AWS's accessanalyzer. So whenever there's a push, whenever there's a pull request, and so we can define those conditions in the GitHub workflow. So in our case, what we say is whenever there's a pull request for a specific branch, in this case, the main branch in a GitHub repository, we run this GitHub workflow, which will connect to AWS using this OIDC provider and assume a role, and then validate the policy. In our case, it's a service control policy, validate the policy, and then give out the results from there. So for that connectivity of OIDC provider using from GitHub, we go into IAM, go into identity providers. So whichever account you want to connect the GitHub workflows to, we log into that account, go to IAM, identity providers, add a provider, add OIDC. This will be quick check. This will be tokens.actions GitHub user content.com, get thumbprint. So this gets the certificate information. The audits will be STS dot here. So all of this I'm getting from the GitHub documentation. So that's the audience. We can add the provider. This adds the provider. We go to roles. We can add new role. This will be web identity. Choose this. This will be this. Go next. Because we want custom permissions, in our case, it's going to be accessanalyzer, right? So I don't know if there's accessanalyzer. Yep. So we want the validate policy capability of accessanalyzer. Yeah, so specifically this. So what we can do is we can give access to read-only access, which gives access to the validate policy, or what we can do is create a custom policy with just this one permission, because this is what we are going to use. We can actually do that. So let's go copy this, create a policy, JSON, paste this, remove the get and list. We'll just leave validate policy. We'll create GitHub workflows validate policy. IAM policy used for workflow, which will validate service control policies. The policy that will create the policy, and we can attach it here. Search for it here. Search for GitHub. Do refresh. That's that. We'll call this GitHub workflow validate policy. That's a long descriptive name, but still should be fine. So what we say is this will use the identity provider which we created earlier. Use this. We can go to an extent where this role can be assumed using this OIDC provider only from a specific repository in GitHub. So we can go to that level of granularity. So yeah, configure role and trust policy. We can add this subfield, which will basically say we can say this specific repository, specific branch. So we can get really granular with this approach. We can say only specific repositories and specific branches in that repository can access this GitHub workflow, GitHub role from GitHub. So what we do is, we don't want to do that for now. We'll leave it as it is. Now the permission create role. Role is created. Let's search for GitHub. Yes, GitHub workflow value policy. It has the value policy. Trust relationship is here. So this is the not this one. So this will be the ARN, which we'll copy over to the GitHub workflow, and then we can make use of it from there.